Welcome back, you filthy exiles. So I thought I'd do a build update finally. I'm back at home for tonight, and then I'll be traveling for another 2 weeks. So there's a bunch of other videos that I'll be working on in between studying. So it's going to be a bit of a rough week. But we got back in yesterday, and I managed to do some pretty significant upgrades, such as we now have Relicash. We're only on a 5 link still, but we no longer need to run Life Tap to be able to run our Boneshatter because we now have a bit of Mana Leech, which we have in our Fuel the Fight node here. We're running Tanuahi. We've switched to Arn's Anguish at this point, and we basically just like tank everything at this stage. New helm, bunch of other stuff, so we'll talk through all that, the gem setups. It was still a fair bit of work to go in the build, but right now it's starting to feel better and better, and you know, we're moving towards the optimum. We get to like 2 mil DPS, but we have some issues capping Leech. We need to switch to Adorned eventually, and we're just like not optimized anywhere on the tree right now. We're still running, you know, the attack mastery nodes and Tribal Fury and stuff like that, which we need to switch out eventually. But overall, like, you know, I haven't been playing as much as I normally would be, but we're pretty tanky. We're doing like, we can't kill a T17 boss yet. At least with bad mods, but we're getting close to that point, but we can farm T17 maps anyway, without killing the boss. And everything else is pretty much up for season now. Now, I do have to do things like switch to Eventuality Rod. I do need to do a lot of stuff to this build, but this is just a progress build. We'll continue to push this build throughout next week, and we should get to like finality by next weekend. Also, it's taking me a little longer than I anticipated, but you know, is what it is. So yeah, anyway, let's get into the gear breakdown and have a talk about the build. Okay, so some things that have changed in the gear and just talking through the gear as an overall. My helm is now significantly different. I don't have the right implicit minions as the wrong implicit. I actually want physical damage converted to life recoup at this point. But again, we've capped out our res, our chaos res in totality now. So we actually don't really need to be running a flask. So when we have flask up, we get 80%. But we could sort of run around with increased crit, and that's going to give us tons of damage anyway, and basically push us up a little further in our damage profile than what I've even got in the POB. You could also put Consecrated Ground with a deconsecrated flask. Can't remember what it's. So, anyway, whatever. A sulfur flask, sorry. We could run a sulfur flask, and that would give us a fair ton of damage, which is probably going to be something that I'll end up doing. So I have Consecrated Ground when I'm running around. That'll get my life regeneration up to about 800 to 900, give or take. Now, that's basically it for the helm, right? We got max cap chaos. I actually crafted this helm using chaos fossils. So, yeah, it was basically just a good helm, dropped on the ground, and crafted a 1500 armor helm. So I'm pretty happy with that. Life regeneration rate's good. If you can get flat life on it, even better. Those are the main stats. So reses, flat life, life regeneration rate, and you are laughing. Amulet still hasn't changed. I haven't been able to find a better amulet than the one that I've got, just because we're going to go to All's Uprising, so we need a Crystal King to pop up, and then we'll pop a Crystal King with this build and steal his amulet, and that will fix this. But right now, this amulet is bad. It's just here to basically get me over the line. Now, my chess piece, I am running a 4th Vaal still, and that's going to be the endgame chess piece I'm running, because we're running Divine Flesh on this setup. My scepter, or my staff, sorry, I have a pretty big DPS staff. If we'd like do an assessment of deeps, it's a 671 DPS staff, or a 635 DPS stave. So yeah, it is quite a good staff, but I picked this up on the market, I think, for 1 div. There should be more of these on the market now. You do want to get Eventuality Rod though, because that's going to give you the extra power charge and endurance charge, and because we're running Arn's Anguish and crit, that's going to increase your damage pretty significantly. Rings still the same, 2 chaos rings, basically all res on 1 life regeneration, and if you can get flat life on them, even better. Then we've got Tanuahi still. This is uncorrupted, and this is just getting me through. So this gives me Adrenaline, and it gives me Onslaught, which are also very good stats to have in this build. Now, we've also switched to Arn's Anguish. In mine, I've got a Corrupted Implicit for increased attack speed during Flask effect, because I don't use Life Blast, you'll notice, because Life Blasts are for chumps. So... basically, this gives me Brutality Charges, and Brutality Charges gives me a good steady up of increased damage. It also increases my total max endurance charge cap, which I think gets me to 10 endurance charges now. And this is basically just like the best setup outside of running something like a Mage Blood. This will carry me for quite some time. This particular belt costs like 10 or 15C now, and it drops from Maven, and it's probably getting cheaper by the day. So yeah, it's not a very expensive piece of gear. Now, Ralakesh I have on it. I don't have a corrupted implicit endurance charge yet, but hopefully we'll be able to either corrupt one or get one. These are currently benching for about 1.3 div on the market. They dropped really significantly, but this is the best set of boots to run on this build because it basically gives us the stats of having all of our charges. So it counts as having maximum endurance, frenzy, and power charges, which we use every single one of those to prop up our damage and our survivability. Now, flask-wise, I've just got a diamond flask. I've got all like gain charges when hit. So we run Cold Lightning and Ruby. So we got stun duration, shock reduction, avoidance of shock, which is probably an overlap and we don't really need that, but shock dot in Delve is pretty bad. And then we run a Basalt, which gives us reduced effective curses as well. And that's basically, you know, that's what I'm running. I'm gonna probably switch out the Diamond Flask again, like I said, for a Sulfur Flask so I can get Consecrated Ground. But yeah, we'll see how we go. But that's it for the setup. Like, gearing setup, still relatively it's not great, but you know, we're getting there. Now, in relation to gem setups, we did change this a fair bit, or not a fair bit, but a little bit. So in the helm, we're running War Banner, Leap Slam, Life Tap, and faster attacks. In our staff, we've got Mark on Hit, Assassin's Mark, Life Tap support, and we've also got Vitality and Determination unlinked in here too, so they're not fettered by the Life Tap. In our chest piece, we've got Boneshatter, a complex trauma, we've got multi-strike support, we've got Impale, we've got endurance chance on melee stun support, and we've got melee physical damage. Now, once you get 6-link on this, you're going to want brutality, and then your damage is going to just skyrocket. Then in our gloves, we've got Blood Rage, we've got Automation, we've got Molten Shell, and more duration. And in the boots, we're running Enhance, we're running Empower, we're running Precision, and we're running Arrogance. Enhance really doesn't do anything for this. I don't know why I put it in here. Maybe just for the lols. But at this stage, it's in here. I paid 1 div for it, whatever. I was experimenting around. I didn't check the numbers. But to be honest with you, like putting Enhance on something like Assassin's Mark is probably going to be a lot more valuable and give me a lot more damage as an overall. But definitely Precision gets a huge benefit from increased gem level, which we need to get our accuracy up because that's currently a little bit problematic with this. See, the benefit of the Jug is the just built-in accuracy and the Ascendancy. But we can work with this with War Banner and a few other things within the build to prop it up. But overall, that's it for the gem setups. It's pretty straightforward. This is all in the POB that I'll attach. Okay, so as far as pathing tree, pretty standard stuff, right? So basically, we did sort of re-bridge the links down here because we're starting to move in favor of our like endgame tree. So eventually, we're going to take these nodes down here and take this. But we do have 2 cluster jewels in this build. One in particular gives me Overlord now. Overlord's really important because it gives you Fortify if you hit with a staff. So it's a huge amounts of damage reduction that we get from that. And the benefit of that is sought by the fact that, you know, when we take self-damage and stuff like that, basically at the point where you have Fortify, that's when you can run your Arn's Anguish. So you really need Overlord before you can run Arn's Anguish. To actually get the benefit out of endurance charge or brutality charge stacking at this stage. But basically, we come up from the main area. We branch out in 2 directions now. So we go down into the Divine Flesh route when we go down. We go straight down into the cluster nodes down here, which we have Fuel the Fight right now. We need a triple to buff our damage up, but right now Fuel the Fight's giving us our mana leech, so it's a nice cheap one. We still have Tribal Fury with increased Vaal Strikes. Eventually, we're going to switch out the Tanuahi, go to Rare Gloves, so we can get rid of these 5 points and put this back to the other side of the tree, right? And then basically we come across, we grab Master of the Arena, Art of the Gladiator, we get all the Golems, Blood Nodes, Cloth and Chain. We want to put our next point when we get to level 92 up into Savagery, so we get another Frenzy Charge, and then that synergizes with our Ralakesh Boots, so we get maximum 4 Frenzy Charges, so our increased attack speed will carry us a bit more. Then we come back up and we're going to grab the combat stamina nodes and the armor mastery node that gives us up to 100% increased maximum armor when we stand still. We get another dual socket node here. Then we're going to come down and grab like battle trance, gives us plus 10 to rage, which we use rage stacking in this. And then obviously a disemboweling, barbarism and stamina node as well. And then we come up, we grab our Smashing Strikes, our Devotion, and then, some of our skills cost less mana because we've got to manage the mana right. And then Endurance +1 to another dual socket, and then we go to Faith and Steel. Then we get to our cluster duel, which we run Nature's Patience. We've got Overlord now, and we've got Heavy Hitter. Now, we would run Heavy Hitter anyway. This is pretty close to where we would want, like, our endgame sort of cluster. But, like, Overlord is, like, a target node that you really do need. And these are, like, 1 div for these clusters, by the way, right now. So I think we pumped, like, another 7 or 8 div in. And I am going to do a video of how I'm farming currency out of Delve. Because it is pretty profitable if you're farming for curiosities again. They've went up in price. They're like 3 point something div at the moment. But I'll do a video on that later tonight anyway. For our Ascendancy, still the same deal. Born Under Fire, Toughened Skin, Ancestral Endurance, and Ancestral Defiance. Some people are posting up saying Born Under Fire was making them weaker. It will make you weaker until you get your Divine Flesh set up so you can mitigate that elemental damage that goes to your Chaos resistance pool. So you do need to have Divine Flesh, 4th Vaal, and this set up before you can really use Born Under Fire and take advantage of it. Otherwise, use Ancestral Reach, and this will give you, plenty of damage. And it also means that you don't need to take Tribal Fury then. You can get rid of Tribal Fury and repurpose the 5 points, put it somewhere else. And that just lets you do a little bit more with the build, but that's if you haven't got a 4th Vaal setup going on. Overall, this build's pretty good. Like, I think I'm down to like 250 depth delve. I'm just farming down now. As I said, I haven't played as much over the last week because I've been away, and I'll be sort of traveling again tomorrow and a bit busy in the nights again, but I should be on stream a lot more consistently over the next few weeks. Overall, though, I'm going to get this to end game by the end of next weekend, most likely. But yeah, I think the next build, I'll put a thingo up in the global post. I'm either going to do zombies or I'm going to do the behemoth build with slams with Facebreaker. I'm on the bench about those two right now, so I'm open to suggestions for anyone in the comments who wants to see me run a behemoth. But yeah, anyway, until next time, I'll see you guys later, and don't forget to like and sub to the channel, and have a good one all.